In the world of country music, few love stories have captured hearts like that of Trisha and Toby. Their romance began in high school, blossoming as Toby rose to fame with hits like I Love This Bar. Tricia, who first crossed paths with Toby while working at an oil company, was immediately drawn to his bold charm. Over 39 years, they built a life together, raising children who followed Toby into the music world. But as Toby's final moments approached, questions arose. What hidden truths might lie in those last, desperate hours? And what was Tricia's role in them?
Every person in the room was just zoomed in, and then you just deliver that message, and it got its due, and then it went #1 the next day. It was like trending like out of the... So now they've released it to radio. I was like, Toby's got a new song out. No, man, it's 4 years old. You just didn't hear it the first time.
And a month after that, my son's fiance doesn't have a father, and she asked him if I'd walk her down the aisle at my son's wedding. And I'm going, well, if I'm like the last guy, I ain't gonna make it. So hell yeah, I got scared.
Their love story is one that will be remembered for years to come, a tale of enduring devotion and unbreakable bonds. Toby and Tricia's journey began shortly after high school. At the time, Toby was already making a name for himself with his hit song, I Love This Bar. After 3 years of dating, they married in 1984 and built a life together, raising 2 children. Toby started his career in the oil industry in 1979, immediately after graduating high school. He described his job as typical oil rig work, a tough and demanding life, but it provided a steady income, around $50,000 a year. Despite this, music was always his true calling. As the lead singer and guitarist of the Easy Money Band, Toby blended country and rock, creating a sound similar to the band Alabama. It was during this time, while working as a secretary at an oil company, that Tricia met Toby. At 19 years old, Tricia found herself drawn to Toby's confidence and charm, qualities she would later say captivated her from the start. In 2023, the couple celebrated their 39th wedding anniversary, a milestone Toby marked by sharing a throwback photo on Instagram. Before she met Toby, Tricia had 3 children from previous relationships. Her first daughter, Shelley, was born in 1980. When Toby and Tricia married, Toby embraced Shelley as his own daughter. The couple later had 2 more children, a daughter named Crystal in 1985 and a son named Steen in 1997. Crystal, inspired by her father, pursued a career in music, while Steen carved his path as a successful entrepreneur, owning businesses like 405 Burger Bar and Hollywood Corners. In November 2022, Toby was honored with the BMI Icon Award, an event that brought his entire family together. Around this time, Toby fully shifted his focus to music as the oil industry began to decline. Tricia remained steadfast by his side through financial difficulties and career changes, even when others suggested Toby seek a more stable job. In interviews, Toby often expressed his deep gratitude for Tricia's unwavering support, which allowed him to follow his musical dreams. But the hardest challenges still lay ahead for them. Toby cherished his time on stage and in the studio, but nothing compared to the moments spent at home with Tricia and their children. In a 1991 interview, Tricia shared that while many saw Toby as a romantic, she valued his simpler acts of love, like choosing to save money on flowers to buy her meaningful gifts or treat her to dinner. Tricia's presence was a constant source of strength for Toby, especially at awards shows. In September 2023, just months before Toby's passing, Tricia stood proudly by his side at the People's Choice Country Awards. That evening, Toby was honored with the Country Music Icon Award, and his heartfelt acceptance speech moved Tricia to tears. Yet, even this emotional moment could not prepare them for what was to come. After a courageous battle with stomach cancer that began in 2021, Toby Keith passed away on February 5, 2024. His death marked the end of a profound and lasting partnership with Tricia, a bond that had weathered countless challenges over the years. Their story, one of love, perseverance, and shared dreams, will continue to resonate with those who knew and admired them. In times of great love, there often comes great sorrow. Yet, it is the love that endures, that continues to inspire even after those we cherish are gone. Toby and Tricia's story reminds us that true love is not just about the good times, but about standing together through the hardest moments of life. The person thanked their interlocutor for making time in a busy schedule, acknowledging the value of the conversation they were about to have. They inquired about the other's well-being, noting a serene demeanor despite apparent busyness. Life's inherent challenges were acknowledged, shared through a reflection on personal hardships that necessitated a temporary retreat from daily routines. The path was described as obstacle-laden, yet traversed with a persistent faith that served as a crucial guiding force. The individual then shifted focus to the hardships imposed by illness, particularly the heartbreak of a late diagnosis, setting the stage for a discussion on faith's role during such trials. Diagnosed over 2 years ago, each day was depicted as a struggle for control and understanding. A chaotic journey steadied only by an unwavering faith. They pondered whether this ordeal had strengthened their companion's faith, sharing that while their own hadn't necessarily grown stronger, their comprehension of it had deepened, relying on it heavily in moments of despair. The narrative continued with a recount of a profound peace experienced in the spring following the diagnosis, a peace that transcended verbal explanation, rooted in acceptance of whatever might lie ahead. This peace, they mused, might seem elusive to those without faith, comparable to an inexplicable light switch flicking off. Yet, for them, faith was a consistent presence, a supportive companion through each day's trials. The conversation then veered towards a recollection of a road trip and a meaningful exchange with a fellow traveler about the nature of belief. The traveler's skepticism about faith, juxtaposed with his belief in unproven phenomena like UFOs, prompted a reflection on the marvels of the natural world. They argued for the presence of a divine hand in life's balance and beauty, seeing it in every small miracle and answered prayer, suggesting a design too intricate to attribute to chance alone. The dialogue concluded with a query about how one might convey the essence of their faith to another, tying back to the initial theme of finding solace and strength in belief amidst life's tumult. Faith is not about following a strict set of rules. It's about forming a personal connection, a relationship with the divine. This relationship is what sustains us, a light that guides us through the darkest times. It's more than just teachings, it's a living, breathing connection that comforts and guides. There was once a man who had a dream. He was a musician, passionate about his craft. But life was not easy. Financial struggles haunted him as he pursued his career, earning barely enough to get by. His weekly income ranged from $230 to $250, and though he performed for $3,000 over 5 nights, it was not enough to secure a stable life. To make matters worse, he often found himself driving long distances to places like Las Cruces, New Mexico, only to face the frequent misfortune of flat tires that could only be fixed cheaply. For 5 or 6 long years, this was his life, a relentless cycle of performing on the road, scraping by and hoping for a breakthrough. As he approached his late 20s, the weight of his struggles became heavier. Every night, he prayed not for riches or fame, but for guidance. He was thankful for what he had but needed a sign. Should he continue down this path of uncertainty in music, or should he turn away and find a new direction? He gave himself a deadline. If by the age of 30 he hadn't found his way, he would change careers. The burden was not just on him alone. He was a father, responsible for 2 children. Later, there would be 3. And the thought of continuing to bring home such little money weighed heavily on him. Yet, he was still young, and his spirit had not yet been crushed by the hardships he faced. Then, something unexpected happened. After facing rejection after rejection in Nashville, where he had hoped to make his mark, his luck began to turn. He had a simple cassette with 6 songs that held his heart and soul, but they had not opened any doors for him so far. Yet, during his regular gigs in Oklahoma City, every 8 weeks, he befriended a club manager whose nephew had connections in the music industry. This nephew set up a meeting as his 30th birthday approached, the tension and hope intertwined in his heart. Would this be the end of his dream? But fate had one more twist in store. While visiting his hometown for his parents' anniversary, he reconnected with old friends who had moved to Nashville. They believed in him and took his cassette, passing it on to someone with influence in the music industry. To his amazement, this influential figure was immediately interested in his work. Just days before his 30th birthday, he received the call that would change everything. He was asked to perform 2 sets of his music for this industry leader. The very songs that had been dismissed before were now his ticket to success. These performances secured him a record deal, and his career in music finally began to take off. The songs that once seemed destined for obscurity would go on to become hits. This was a moment of transformation, a moment that proved that, despite the challenges and the overwhelming competition in places like Nashville, true talent could still shine through. It was as if the prayers he had whispered in the quiet of the night had finally been answered. This story is not just about one man's journey. It is a reminder that in life, perseverance can lead to the unexpected. Sometimes, when all seems lost, a door opens in the most unlikely of places. It is a story that tells us that even in the darkest times, hope can find a way to survive. Country music legend Toby Keith passed away on February 5, 2024, at the age of 62 after a courageous battle with stomach cancer. His passing marks the end of an era for both country music and the broader cultural landscape he influenced throughout his life. Toby Keith was born and raised in Clinton, Oklahoma, and spent much of his childhood on a farm near Oklahoma City. His early years were filled with the sights and sounds of rural life, but one place that stood out in his memory was his grandmother's establishment, Billy Garner's Supper Club, located in Fort Smith, Arkansas. The club, later known as Clancy's Tavern, was a special place for Keith. It had a bar in the front and a fine dining area in the back, where live bands played and people danced. This atmosphere left a lasting impression on young Toby, inspiring his future in music. The influence of the club was so strong that he named his 15th album after it, though he never performed there before it was sold. Keith's path to music was not a straightforward one. He initially planned to follow in his father and grandfather's footsteps by working in the Oklahoma oil fields. He began working as a derrick hand right out of high school, driven by the booming oil industry at the time. His original goal was to study petroleum engineering in college, but the lure of the oil fields was too strong. This early chapter of his life was marked by a fierce work ethic, a trait that would later define his music career. During this time, Keith balanced his demanding oil field job with his growing passion for music. He formed a band called Easy Money, playing gigs whenever he could. However, The downturn in the oil industry in the early 80s forced him to reconsider his future. After losing his job in the oil fields, Keith worked various other jobs, including as a bricklayer and even a semi-professional football player. But his love for music never waned, and eventually he decided to pursue it full-time. The turning point in Keith's career came with his self-titled debut album in 1993. The album featured the hit single "Should Have Been a Cowboy," which was inspired by a light-hearted incident during a hunting trip. The song quickly climbed the charts, marking the beginning of Keith's rise to fame. This success set the stage for a long and fruitful career in country music. Keith's entry into the music industry was marked by a stroke of luck. A chance meeting with a flight attendant who passed his demo tape to Harold Shedd, the head of Mercury Records, opened doors that might have otherwise remained closed. This connection led to a series of record deals and eventually the founding of his own label, Show Dog, after overcoming numerous challenges with record executives. One of the most defining moments of Keith's career came in 2002 with the release of Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, The Angry American. Written in just 20 minutes, the song was a powerful response to the September 11th attacks. It resonated deeply with a nation still reeling from the tragedy and brought Keith both widespread acclaim and sharp criticism. The song reflected not only the country's mood, but also Keith's personal loss, as his father had passed away shortly before the attacks. This connection to themes of American resilience and military support became a hallmark of Keith's music. But Toby Keith was more than just a musician. He was also a shrewd businessman, building a vast empire that extended far beyond the world of music. He ventured into restaurants and other enterprises, leveraging his fame to achieve financial success. In 2013, Forbes recognized his business acumen, naming him country's $500 million man. This blend of musical talent and entrepreneurial spirit made Keith a significant figure in American culture, leaving a legacy that will be remembered for generations. As we reflect on Toby Keith's life, we are reminded that true passion and dedication can carve out an unforgettable path, no matter where one starts. His journey from the oil fields of Oklahoma to the heights of country music stardom is a testament to the power of perseverance and the impact one person can have on an entire industry. Toby Keith didn't just lend his name to a restaurant chain. He was deeply involved in its creation. His restaurant, I Love This Bar and Grill, was a nod to one of his well-loved songs. Keith didn't stop at one location. He expanded the chain to several sites across the country. However, his level of control and ownership varied from place to place. These establishments became important parts of the communities they served, providing not just food, but also a sense of local pride. But, as with many ventures, challenges arose. By 2015, reports from Arizona Central indicated that the chain began to face serious issues. Locations suddenly shut down, and disputes over business matters became frequent. In the end, only 2 restaurants remained open in Oklahoma. Meanwhile, Keith found greater success in other ventures. His record label, Show Dog, and his Wild Shot Mezcal brand proved profitable. These successes gave him the financial freedom to invest in other areas. One of Keith's investments was in a local clothing factory near his home in Oklahoma. When the factory faced closure, Keith tried to keep it alive, aiming to run it sustainably without the pressure to make a profit. Yet, the struggle to compete with cheaper imports from abroad made it impossible to keep the factory open. Despite his efforts, the economic realities were too harsh. In a 2013 interview with Forbes, Keith shared his frustration about being misunderstood because of his lyrics. He was often labeled as a staunch conservative, a tag he never embraced. In a 2016 conversation with the Chicago Tribune, Keith clarified that he had never registered as a Republican. His family had Democratic roots, and he himself had been a Democrat until 2008, when he became an independent. Despite what some believed, Keith was against the Iraq War and supported gay marriage and abortion rights, as noted by reports from The Atlantic. In 2017, Keith performed at Donald Trump's pre-inauguration event. He explained that his performance was in support of the presidential office, not necessarily the individual. During the 2016 election, Keith was critical of both Trump and Hillary Clinton. His friend Bobby Pinson humorously described Keith's political stance as Toby-crat and Toby can. Keith's song, courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, The Angry American, brought him into the national spotlight, but it also sparked controversy. Natalie Maines of the Chicks criticized the song, saying it portrayed country music negatively. Their feud became public, with Keith even showing an edited photo of Maines with Saddam Hussein during his concerts. However, this dispute seemed insignificant to Keith after he witnessed a friend's child lose their battle with cancer. It was a moment that made him realize the futility of such arguments, prompting him to seek peace. Tragedy often reshapes priorities. When we see loved ones suffer, what once seemed important can quickly lose its meaning. Keith's relationship with the Chicks could have taken a different turn when former Vice President Al Gore invited them both to participate in a climate change awareness campaign in 2008. However, due to scheduling conflicts, this collaboration never happened. Keith also forged an unlikely friendship with comedian Stephen Colbert. Their bond began when Keith appeared on The Colbert Report. Despite initial reservations, they grew to respect and understand each other's work. As a sign of their friendship, Keith even gave Colbert a pillow with a humorous message as a Christmas gift. Keith's dedication to cancer-related causes was deeply personal. After the heartbreaking loss of his guitarist's daughter to cancer, he founded Allie's House to support families in Oklahoma dealing with the disease. This passion for helping others led to the creation of the Toby Keith Foundation, which opened the OK Kids Corral in 2013. The facility, costing $20 million, provides free lodging to pediatric cancer patients and their families. Keith remained committed to this cause until his own battle with cancer. Today, his foundation continues this vital work, offering hope and support to those facing similar struggles. Even in the face of personal battles, Toby Keith's legacy of compassion and resilience lives on. Through his foundation, he continues to make a difference, proving that true impact often comes from enduring the deepest hardships.